the Nakamoto upgrade for Stacks is scheduled to launch between April 15th to the 29th of this year. And it's going to coincide, of course, with the Bitcoin halving. This upgrade itself will enable, listen to this, 100% of BTC finality and will help establish Stacks as a true Bitcoin layer 2. And when we talk about supply and demand, that really, really caught my attention. I was like, all right, isn't that the point? Yeah, you could see potential movement because, like anything, I mean, something big like that is to happen. Why not mention it? So I'm going to share this from the Stacks CMC page real quick. So Stacks, of course, slightly down, sitting at $1.52. All right, some brief things about it. You do see that they have a max total supply that match each other. And basically that is 369. So that's 1,818,000,000. But the cool thing is this. Remember how we did that tokenomics video and it was talking specifically about, things like if there's 80% that's in supply and circulation, you're not necessarily chasing an uphill battle. Well, that's also in recognition to also crypto winter, but we're approaching some things that sound pretty bullish in regards to like a bull market and so on, right? So you're at 79%. I think that obviously gets to pass. Having some of these things mentioned coming up here soon is really cool. Is it buy the rumor, sell the news? Possibly, but that's a real strong positive catalyst, is it not? If you're wondering where to get this real quick, I'm going to show you real quick. It is on a bunch of different exchanges. Binance, OKX, Coinbase, might be even on, I think it's also on crypto.com. Let me just double check. There's on KuCoin. You have Upbit, crypto.com. Okay, cool. So let's just kind of get into some of the nitty gritty that I found. So again, back to that whole thing of, Nakamoto upgrade, what a name in itself. So I found this video, okay, and these guys straight from Stacks kind of just talk about this real quick. Okay, so I'll let it speak for itself. It's going to be, I don't know, about 5 or 6 minutes in itself. It talks about unfolding Stacks, Nakamoto release with near 5-second transaction times. This, of course, this interview was, I believe December, so not that long ago. Pay attention to what they're saying here. Say to yourself, is this a perfect case of, supply and demand kicking in, or is it just buy the rumor, sell the news, or buy the rumor, sell a utility that nobody cares about? I think this is a big deal because you know what? If I talk about, for instance, IMX, right, Immutable X, and understand that that is an answer to a problem with Ethereum, then I think Stacks should also get the honorable mention because it also is a solution to a problem in regards to, let's face it, Bitcoin, BTC. So let's go ahead and play this. And if anything, we'll come back here in a bit. Here we go.
Essentially, like Stacks is a programming layer that exists to actually make Bitcoin programmable. Now, what's out there today in terms of what you can program is there is an independent blockchain, right, that derives its security from Bitcoin, right? But it's quite slow. It's maybe not as secure as we'd like, right? And you can't move like BTC, the assets, on top of it, right? And that's all going to change with the Nakamoto upgrade. So it's very much going to, going from kind of a proof of concept, which is what we have now, to kind of the full thing.
And so Stacks mainnet came out in January 2021. Fast forward, the Nakamoto release will come out end of 2023, maybe early 2024. With that, what is that release going to bring? That is an improvement upon the mainnet launch just a few years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Stacks Nakamoto release is basically kind of going to do 3 things. So firstly, it's going to make the blocks much faster. So currently, Stacks blocks are anchored to Bitcoin blocks. So you'd be waiting like 10 to 20 minutes, every time for a new block, right? Which kind of slow if the state of your app depends on the Stacks chain, right? And much slower than we're used to today from Ethereum or even Solana, right? So this is going to go to 5 seconds or less than 5 seconds, right? So that's a huge improvement.
Yeah.
Then secondly, like the blocks are also going to get much more secure, right? Or it's basically going to get much more secure to build apps on the Stacks layer. Yeah, you can sort of dive into the details there, but essentially, like per stack block, the security budget is kind of going to increase by 5,000 times, right? And then periodically, essentially, all of stacked state will become equivalent to Bitcoin security, right? So where you basically have to go back and change Bitcoin to be able to change stacks. Yeah, that's sort of very, very difficult. And then the third and final thing is SBTC, right? That will be used in the Nakamoto release, which will basically allow people to move BTC from L1 onto the Stacks layer in a non-custodial way, right? Sort of in a similar experience to moving ETH from, ETH L1 to Arbiter.
Wow. So let's rewind that for just a second. Transaction time. So right now, you mentioned 10 to 20 minutes. We've heard much higher than that, up to 60 minutes in some cases, because again, as you said, it's related to the Bitcoin-based transactions. So what does it mean to bring transaction speeds? And maybe if you have some of the technicals, how are those transaction speeds being brought down from 10 minutes, 60 minutes, all the way down to 5 seconds?
Yeah. I mean, essentially, like today, basically, it's only possible to create kind of a full Stacks block, right, per Bitcoin block, and essentially how that's changing is that it will be possible for there to be many different stacked blocks, right, between 2 Bitcoin blocks, right, and essentially those stacked blocks will sort of be able to prove that they've happened after each other in between 2 specific Bitcoin blocks, right? So that means that if I send you some stable coins on the Stacks layer, right, then they can be confirmed, on Stacks before they, are actually written down into Bitcoin and sort of, being fully sort of, ossified in a way.
And you mentioned a term security budget. I've heard this mentioned multiple times in articles and on Spaces and just out in the Xverse or Twitterverse, as we want to put it out there. What is the security budget when it comes to Bitcoin L1 or Layer 1, the Bitcoin Core Network? What does that mean as importance to the upgrade for Nakamoto, but just in general, what is the security budget when it comes to Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, in general, like I guess if you think about blockchains, right? Like blockchains people use them because they are sort of, they're provably more secure than sort of centralized databases, right? Where someone can just kind of come in and change something. So the sort of security budget of a blockchain is essentially, you can sort of think of it as like, how expensive is it to go and in as a single actor and kind of change the blockchain, right? And kind of mess with the state, mess with the database, right? And essentially in Bitcoin, that would be, more than 50 or essentially 51% of the hash rates, right? Which in hash rate is basically, all the Bitcoin mining computers, right? Like doing all these hashes to kind of, create a new Bitcoin block. So you need to basically, be able to spend like energy to generate, more than 50% of the hash rate, right? So then you can calculate how much energy would that be, right? And let's say Bitcoin uses as much energy as a small country like Austria, then it's kind of half the energy that Austria consumes in a day is kind of what's needed to, it's a security budget for Bitcoin.
So there's a lot more to be mentioned in regards to this budget. Now, as you guys know, when we talk about BSV and so on, I mean, of course, that smokes this. There's no comparison. But if you have something that is still going to, fill a need, right, and give an answer to a solution to a problem that has value, that's what grabbed my attention. In conclusion, some things I want to bring up to you guys, especially when it comes to Stacks, because I don't talk about it much, but I know some of you guys hold it. So this upgrade for Stacks in regards to the Nakamoto upgrade will in fact enable 100% Bitcoin finality and will help establish Stacks as a true Bitcoin layer 2 among maybe a few other competitors or ones that are part of the mix. That stands out. But why is this really significant, and why are layer 2s so important for, of course, BTC? I'd be asking that if I was in attendance right now. Well, you have to keep in mind this particular upgrade, the Nakamoto upgrade, is indeed significant because, for one, it's significant for both stacks and, of course, the broader Bitcoin BTC ecosystem. Here's a breakdown on why that matters. Well, like we said, 100% Bitcoin finality. This basically means that Stacks transactions in itself will be secured, of course, by the BTC network, and also offer the same level of security and immutability as, of course, like you saw in the interview, as BTC. This is a major advantage over other, like I said, the competitors or ones that are in the mix, layer 2 solutions that rely on their own consensus mechanisms. Okay, I should have your attention. What about this being a true Bitcoin layer 2? I'd also be asking that. With Bitcoin finality, Stacks becomes more integrated and trusted part of the BTC ecosystem. This could attract more devs and users to build and utilize applications, of course, on Stacks. That would make Stacks, of course, stand out. Okay, how about some of the juicy parts for you guys that hold Stacks? What about price increase? Well, I can't give you guys an answer on that, but what draws people's attention to the whole thing is the upgrade. And it's a very highly anticipated one, is it not? And basically, it's a positive catalyst for the STX token price due to the increased functionality and security it brings. Say what you want, more security plus an upgrade that will enable Stacks to be that definitive layer 2 solution. Well, that does take the cake. All right, how about this? Importance for layer 2s, period. Not just Stacks. Well, scalability, innovation, security. We already talked about security, and of course also this other thing of being the chosen one. But I want to talk about scalability for a second. So BTC's limited block size, as we know, does restrict the number of transactions it can process per second. Yeah, no kidding. It's one of the biggest complaints BTC has. It's slow and doesn't really get the job done, but supposedly it's a great store of value, right? But it does lead to slow transaction times, high fees, et cetera, et cetera. Say what you want, but shout to like Icy Amphibian, he's real bullish on layer 2s. Is this another example? I think so. But layer 2 solutions like Stacks helps scale BTC by processing transactions off the main chain. And that also is something that needs to be pointed out. And of course, that's going to improve transaction speeds and, of course, do what everybody wants, reduce cost. Innovation. Layer 2 solutions do, in fact, provide a platform for experimentation and, of course, innovation. And it basically enables the development of new apps and functionalities that wouldn't normally be possible, right, on the BTC mainnet chain itself, right? I think we can all agree with that. Back to the whole thing, security. While layer 2 solutions operate off the main chain, which is true, they can still leverage the security of the BTC network through mechanisms like, for instance, Bitcoin finality, as in the case, for instance, of the big subject of the night, the Nakamoto upgrade. For Stacks. Now, overall, always keep in mind this. The Nakamoto upgrade in itself is indeed a significant step forward for Stacks. And it does definitely demonstrate the potential of layer 2 solutions to, of course, address Bitcoin scalability challenges and, of course, foster innovation within the BTC ecosystem. If anything, we talk about mass adoption. Yeah, that is definitely going to help. Would that be enough to trigger price action? My answer is I think it's so, but I could be wrong. But I don't think we're going to be wrong on this. So, while it's always important to note that this upgrade, of course, is still in development and its exact impact remains to be seen, there is a lot of benefit that's to be mentioned here for both Stacks and, of course, BTC, and especially the launch of this going on live in April 2024, because it is highly anticipated. This is probably the biggest deal for Stacks in a long, long time. But at the end of the day, you have to keep in mind the timing. What will happen in regards to the Bitcoin halving? Is it going to be the greatest catalyst ever? Or is it going to be another buy the rumor, sell the news like the ETS? For me personally, I think If we base it off of history, it will be a big deal. Do I tell you to go out and, run to the exchanges and buy up all the stacks you can? No. But I'm presenting information that I thought was pretty significant. Take it however you want it. Do more of your own research in regards to stacks. As far as me covering stacks more often, I don't know. We'll see. But I do recognize that this was probably the one that took the cake as far as a positive catalyst in recent news when it comes to blockchain DLT.